be optimistic? Are you going to choose to see the world? Because that's going to magnetically draw people to you. When your enthusiasm and optimism shines through, when your attitude is such that people say, I like to be around that guy. I love to be around that woman. You're going to be able to build your business because you become a leader and influence. The next one, excellence. Excellence is a choice. You will choose to be excellent. I want to give you some questions. A lot of times when I speak, I just like to ask questions. Because you're the one who's going to have to grapple with this and come to grips with it in your mind. I like to ask questions. When I go through these, I'm going to ask you, do you live up to a level of excellence so that other people see you and say, boy, they really got it going on. I'd like to be like that someday. You probably have somebody in your life who you can look to and say, yeah, I'd really like to be like that person someday. Is it because they stink at it? It's because they're good at it. And the more you raise your level of excellence in all these different areas, the more people are going to be magnetically drawn to you, and leadership and influence will be easier than you've ever thought possible. A lot of people are out there just working hard to lead. And if they become the type of person other people want to follow, it becomes much easier. Let's start with spiritual. I believe that the spiritual is the core of who we are. See, I like to think of us as what theologians call a trichotomy. 3 parts. Body, soul, spirit. Body is this stuff. Body. Right? Soul is the mind, will, and emotions. You can't touch it, but it's in there, right? You don't know where it is, but it's there. It's your mind, your will, your emotions. But then you got that core. That part that transcends this world and enables you to commune with God. And I truly believe that until you get that part of your life right, the rest of it, you're never going to be able to get it right. See, so many people are trying to get their finances in order, and the problem is they're greedy. Or they have no discipline. All spiritual problems. I feel bad for them. Some people trying to get their emotions in check, and they don't, they've got abandonment issues or whatever, as I did, and they're emotionally distraught, and they don't realize that it's a spiritual issue. What about your physical life? Are you physically fit? I hear a lot of mumbling out there. Two reasons to get physically fit, because you know what? People are going to look at you and they're going to say, is this the type of person who I want to follow? You know, they always say, you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, that sounds good, but it isn't true. We all judge people by the cover. Here's what I like to tell people. Every single one of you has a book inside. You've got great, fantastic, amazing information. Make the cover attractive enough that they'll pick it up and read your book. Because the problem is so many people have so much to offer, nobody picks the book up. Because people in this world judge books by their cover. Why not do the best that you can to create an attractive life? And I don't just mean appearance, but in all areas that we're going to talk about, so that people will say, you know what? I at least want to crack that book open and look at the table of contents. And when the table of contents looks good, then I'm going to dive into the book. You all have something to offer. Make sure that the cover is attractive. The second reason is for your families. I used to weigh about 40 pounds more than I do now, and I finally said, you know what? I want to be around for my kids. My dad died when he was 41, and I grew up without a dad. I didn't want my kids to grow up without a dad. So every single day I go to the gym. 9 a.m. to 11, every single day. People call me up and say, hey, can you meet at 10? I say, nope, I got an appointment. Can't do it. Got an appointment that day. I don't tell them it's the gym. But it's important. I have more energy. I'm able to do things. I'm going to live longer. And it helps me influence other people. What about emotional? Are you in an emotional state of excellence so that others around you respect who you are emotionally? You know, you got to be strong. There's going to be down times in life. You don't want to fall apart and become just a bubbling mess of tears on the ground some way, and all your followers are going, now what? Our leader just went haywire on us. Intellectual. When was the last time you picked up a book? Charlie Tremendous Jones says that in 5 years you'll become the product of who you know, people you meet, and the books you read. What about your business? Are you giving it everything you can? Are you doing everything you can? You know, a lot of people get into business and then they just won't, do very much. They won't commit to excellence. And then they go, I don't know, I just don't get it. It's not going on. Well, how many hours did you spend last week? Well, last week, none. Well, why not? Well, I was changing the gerbil cage. We got a lot of gerbils, And what about the way you speak? There's a famous radio host, and he always says people judge you by the words you use. And it's true. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to speak like a Brit and sound all intellectual, but you know what? Learn to speak well. The ability to communicate is going to be imperative in sharing the vision of what it is that you want to accomplish. The next one, decision making. Nobody wants somebody who's indecisive. Nobody wants somebody who's indecisive. When you go to the leader that you follow, do you want to say, hey, what should we do? And they go, well, we should do this. Or maybe we should do this. No, maybe we should do that. I don't know. What should we do? And the leader turns around to the follower and says, I don't know. What should we do? Nobody wants to follow somebody like that. See, when you have a good ability to make decisions, you're going to inspire trust. And the nice thing about being decisive is, what happens if you make a mistake and you make the wrong decision? If you're decisive, you always have time to go back and correct it. And if you worked on the integrity part, you'll be able to admit you were wrong and you go back and you have time to correct it. People don't mind that you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You just, as a leader, you don't want to make too many of them. Everybody makes mistakes. But do you have the capacity to be decisive? And do you have the integrity to admit it when you're wrong? It's going to cause people to look at you and say, that's the type of person I want to become someday. That's the type of person I want to follow. Number 5, goal setting. I just want to briefly touch on this because I know you guys get a lot of that, but goal setting. Here's 4 keys to making goals work. Number 1, it's got to be exciting. It's got to be exciting. Second one is it got to be specific. You got to be able to break it down. I love how I said, hey, you do this, step 1, step 2, step 3. Something you can follow. And the 4th one is you got to tell somebody about your goal. Why? Because then you're on the hook. You tell somebody, hey, I'm going to drop 40 pounds. And the next time you're out to lunch and you're like, yeah, I want the double bacon cheeseburger. What are they going to do? Hey, what happened to the goal of losing 40 pounds? If you don't tell them, they're just going to look at you and go, holy cow, that guy can eat. Number 6 is commitment. Your commitment affects your performance. If you're not committed to something, you're not going to perform at a high level. It always cracks me up, these pro athletes that go, yeah, it was just a practice I skipped. It's hogwash. You got to be committed because it affects your performance. If you skip practice, you won't show up on game day. Tom Flores, a former coach in the NFL, says a total commitment is paramount to reaching the ultimate in performance. Bruce Jenner says your commitment affects your victory. If you want to have ultimate victory in this life, how many of you have ever met a successful person who wasn't committed to anything? How'd you get so successful? Well, I, sat on the couch a lot. Did you ever exercise? Oh, sure, I ran to the fridge every now and then. If you want to take your mission, this is Bruce Jenner, if you want to take your mission in life to the next level, if you're stuck and you don't know how to rise, don't look outside yourself, look inside. Don't let your fears keep you mired in the crowd. Abolish your fears and raise your commitment level to the point of no return, and I guarantee you that the champion within will burst forth to propel you to victory. Do you want to be victorious in life? Well, that wasn't very committed, was it? You want to be victorious? Well, sure. Your commitment affects your quality of life. The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor. Vince Lombardi. You want to have a quality life? When you look at the people who really live in life, don't you see that they have a passion and a purpose and a commitment to something bigger than themselves? The people who are just lounging around, coasting, they don't have great quality of life. Number 7 is priorities. If you're a person of priorities, you will become a person that other people want to follow. I love the quote by Zig Ziglar, good is the enemy of the best. See, 150 years ago, you'd wake up in the morning and you'd have how many options? 3? Well, let's see, I can milk the cows, till the field. 2. Milk the cows, till the field, right? You wake up now, you've got all sorts of opportunities. You know what? We could all go down to the airport right now. We could leave. We could close up shop. We could all go down, and in 24 hours, we could be in Italy. Isn't that amazing? The problem is that 150 years ago, you didn't have many options. You didn't have to really prioritize. It was like milk the cows or till the field. And when you're done with that one, pick the other. But now you've got to make priorities. Good is the enemy of the best. Many of you are involved in very good things. The problem with good things is that they're really bad things. Because they're keeping you from getting to the best things. There's lots of good things that you can involve yourself in, that you can give your money to. The best thing that a leader does or an influencer does is knows when to say no. So that they can choose the best. Because you only have so many hours. You've got to choose the best. The most powerful word in the human language is no. 150 years ago, it was yes. Why? Because no helps you set priorities. I remember I bumped into this 26-year-old gal once when I was doing time management seminars. She came up after one of the seminars. She said, I've solved that problem. I said, really? How? She said, I say no to everything. And I thought to myself, I'll bet you're just a great person to be around. But then she told me the wisdom behind it. She said, when someone comes up and says, hey, can you help with the raffle for PTA? You always say what? Sure. And then you walk away going, why did I do that? I've got too much to do. I can't believe I did that, right? And then you're looking for ways to get out. But if you say no, she says, I say no. No, I'm not going to be able to do that. Then she says, I go home and I think about it. And if it's something I really want to do that I'm not making a decision spur of the moment, I can always call back up and say, hey, Betty, you still need somebody to help with the raffle for PTA? What are they going to say? You betcha. See, no allows you to say no to the good things that are keeping you from the best things. There's all sorts of good things you can do with your life that can take you away from building your business and your financial freedom. Good things. Problem is, they're not the best thing for you. What's the best thing for you and your family? Know what you want. Know what you don't want. That's the secret. Then do it. Number 8 is relationships. And let me tell you this, it's always about the relationships. I learned a great lesson about relationships once. I was going to speak to Cisco Systems. I realized that my brother-in-law buys a lot of stuff from Cisco for this large company that he worked for. I called him up and I said, I'm going to speak to all these Cisco Systems salespeople. I know you buy stuff from them. Do you buy a lot from Cisco? He says, well, we buy almost exclusively from Cisco. I said, really? Okay, great. That's cool. I said, why not Nortel, Lucent, F5, some of the other companies? Why Cisco? Is it because of their product? Is it because of the price? Is it because of the service? I mean, why do you buy almost exclusively from Cisco? He said, you know what? We've spent $20 million on Cisco product in the last 3 years. $20 million of Cisco product. I said, why? He said, oh, it's simple. We like the sales guy better. Are you likable? Some of y'all grumpy. Here you are at this big event. You're walking down the line like this. This is exciting. Are you building relationships? Are you good at relationships? Maybe you need to look inwardly and say, you know what? I'm just not good at relationships. I end up getting invites with people, or I end up being so, sticky that people are kind of going, oh, you're just a little too close. I mean, do you learn relational skills so that you can develop positive relationships so that people say, I want you to influence me? It's always about the relationships. You know who was a master of this? Bill Clinton was a master of this. He was able to create the idea that you had a relationship with him. I know some pretty powerful people who have been in his presence. I mean, these are people who are really not particularly impressed. And they've come out and said, wow. He makes you feel like the center of the universe. Remember the book Primary Colors? It was a fictional account by Anonymous. It was really Joel Klein. And he wrote a book, and it was Jack Stanton was the president. It was really Bill Clinton. He said something interesting in the very first chapter as he described this fictional presidential candidate, Jack Stanton. He said, Jack Stanton is an aerobic listener. I love that turn of phrase, an aerobic listener. He's so energetic in listening that you become the center of the universe. Do people know that you care about them and